something about it before, right? Something to do with survival of the fittest, something to do with that. But what does that actually mean, survival of the fittest, right? A lot of times, before we really understand the context, we think of survival of the fittest as the strongest, right? The biggest, the fastest. But in fact, that's not always the case. Survival of the fittest actually really has to do with whoever is most fit for that environment. Sometimes it's not good to be the fastest. Think about the sloth. Sloths are slow for a reason. There's often a lot of jokes about it, but there's actually a purpose. They've evolved to be slow. And there is a reason for that. So just kind of taking into consideration that when we say survival of the fittest, it doesn't mean the biggest, the baddest, the boldest, right? It just means who has the adaptations or the traits that are going to serve them the best when it comes to living in their habitat. Good morning, everyone. So we're going to talk about natural selection as a process. We're going to have a chance to practice, reflect, and so forth. Anything that we don't get to finish today is what we're going to be working on in small groups. So really quickly, the evolution is the change of biological characteristics over several generations. And I know that if you were in my class yesterday, I really pointed out this whole idea of several generations. Remember that evolution does not happen in one single lifetime. It occurs over many generations. And the lab that you're going to be working on today is going to simulate that it's not just in one person's life. Okay, so it's not just that like, oh, I need to have a longer neck if I'm a giraffe. Let me just really, really think about it. And then all of a sudden I'm going to have a longer neck. No, that's not. It has to happen with the way that you reproduce, the genes that get put into the next generation's gene pool, and so forth. And we're going to talk about that. But I really want to really stress the fact that it happens over many generations. Good job. Millie, I'm teaching right now, man. I can't. A quote from Charles Darwin himself. Charles Darwin is who we consider the father of evolution. He is the one who was the first to publish the book and publish his research from his trip around down to the Galapagos on the Beagle. Pretty famous kind of history there. He said, natural selection acts only by taking advantage of slight successive variations. It can never take a great and sudden leap, unless by short and sure, those slow steps. So that's kind of what I'm saying, right? That's kind of what I was talking about in regards to having this be something that happens over time, over many generations. It's not that it's just all of a sudden in one single individual's lifetime, they're going to grow these adaptations, right? So we're going to talk about that. Natural selection as a process. So I don't have a specific worksheet for you, but I really do recommend that if you have a piece of paper or a pen, or if you put me on a split screen and type up the notes, that there are some good information here and that you can just kind of summarize some of the things that we're going through. Okay. But according to Darwin, evolution brings a remarkable change in the morphology, anatomy, and genetic of a living organism, which helps them to adjust in a better manner in the environment and coordinate with the fluctuating conditions with time. Darwin's theory of evolution stated that all life is related and has descended from a common ancestor. So really what he's saying is that there are small changes that as the environment changes ever so slightly, there are some traits, some different variations of genes that are going to be better suited. And that over time, we're going to start to see the population actually have those traits over some others. Millie, enough. Bring that here. Bring it here. So sorry. Okay. So here's a couple of things that we need to talk about. There's 4 key parts about Darwin's evolution. So the idea of variation, right? So we need to understand that there are variations of a gene. This is what we call those alleles, right? We have an allele for brown hair, blonde hair, red hair. Those are all genes for hair, but they are all variations of that gene. So it's really important for us to acknowledge that there are different variations of a gene. We can also call those traits. We also call those alleles, but that there are, it's not just everybody has one. There are different degrees of it. So eye color, height is an example of a variation of a gene. Everyone has the height gene, but their height varies, right? Then there's this other aspect of inherited traits, genes that are passed down from parent to offspring. This is important. This is one of the key things about natural selection. Natural selection cannot happen unless those traits are passed down. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Offsprings compete. So there are some organisms, and in general, this in a population, right? So population is more than one of the same species. And so there is this idea that resources are going to be competed for among their own species. So food sources, habitats, right? Just being able to build. There are definitely some competition when it comes to these things and their ability to survive. So there is this competition between offspring. Sometimes there are species where it comes down all the way to offsprings. Their siblings compete, and then also individuals among the population, right? Trying to take care of your family. So that's a big part of Darwin's evolution. And of course, survival. Survival is one of the biggest things. It says alleles that helps an organism to better survive has a higher chance of passing those traits to the next generation. So that's really what it comes down to. These are all features of Darwin's evolution, but the survival is the key. Theoretically, if you have a gene that is going to help you survive, then you are going to outcompete your peers, and your genes are the ones that are going to be put into your offspring. When you reproduce and you have your next generation, you're going to see that gene pop up more and more if it helps you survive. So that's really the big thing about natural selection, is really, when it comes down to it, can you survive better? If you can survive better, you have a better chance of making it to reproduction. If you can make it to reproduction, you get to put your genes into the next gene pool, into the next generation. So it really comes down to this overall idea of survival of the fittest. My genes are best for this generation or for this environment. Therefore, I'm going to survive to reproduce. Therefore, my genes are going to be in the next gene pool. Therefore, my traits are going to pop up more and more. So kind of like what I was saying, the process of natural selection kind of goes a little bit like this. You're living, an organism lives its life in its environment. It's just doing its thing. It's surviving. And then something happens in the environment. A change occurs. Forest fires, for example, last fall, when we had all those forest fires, are going to bring about a change in the environment. There's going to be some natural selection that occurs from the fires, right? And so there's going to be some sort of change in the environment. When there's that change in the environment, then there's going to be some alleles or traits that are better suited for those changes. And then when that's the case, the traits that are better for the new environment are going to live long enough to reproduce in the next generation. So that's kind of what I was talking about. There's this process of natural selection. Now, how do some of these traits or alleles come about? That is actually just from a couple of different things that's mostly has to do with mutations. So we talked about mutations. We talked about, in quarter 2, we talked about DNA. We talked about reading the nucleotides. We talked about how there cannot be a mistake. And if there is a mistake, that it can change the shape of that protein. And if that shape of that protein changes, then it either can't function or it's going to help it or nothing, right? So sometimes there are some actual changes in the DNA that allow for those traits to come up for the first time. And those mutations lead to that trait variation, to how there's different types of genes. Okay. Are there any questions? Are there any questions of natural selection, the process of natural selection, anything? Any questions yet? Because we're going to go into practicing it now. So I just want to make sure that we don't have any questions. Okay. So we're kind of starting to get the idea. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at our practice. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of a simulation. Okay. We're going to kind of see what occurs. So you are, okay, I changed this. You're not a hungry shark because that doesn't make sense. You're a hawk. Okay. I was going to go with like little fishies, but then I changed it to squirrels. So now you're a hawk. Okay. So now you are a hungry hawk. So what you are going to do, and there are 5 of you here today. So for today, I'm going to split you guys up into 2 and 3. Okay. And I'm not going to put you guys in, breakout rooms. I'm just going to assign you guys to a slide. Okay, so let me go ahead and just create a duplicate slide to address it. Okay, so you are a hungry hawk, right? And you are going to try to find as many squirrels as you can because you're hungry. You want to eat them. So I'm going to be giving you guys 30 seconds, okay? I'm going to share this slide with you in just a moment, but you are going to try to capture as many squirrels as you can in 30 seconds. You're going to click and drag the squirrels. You're going to go ahead, click and drag the squirrels out of the area and put it in the corner. And then after the 30 seconds, you're going to count how many there are at the end of the round. Okay. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to try to get as many as we can. And what I'd like for you to do is please go ahead and draw this table somewhere on your paper. Okay. So it is 6 columns, excuse me. 6 columns, and then it is 5 rows. And we're going to try to count the number of red squirrels that survived, the number of tan squirrels that survived. We're going to find out the total, and then we're going to find out how many were red and how many were tan. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of seconds to go ahead and do that. And go ahead and click on that link that I put in in the chat. I know there's 5 of you guys, so there should be 5 people on the slides. I see 1 person so far. Good. There we go. We got 3 people. Waiting on 2 more. Okay. All right, Sam. Well, if it's up to you, I would rather you watch and be a part of it than get frustrated with, not being able to participate. So it's up to you if you want what you want to do. Okay. But we are waiting for 1 more. So who are we waiting on? Okay. All right, good. We've got, well, it says you're here, Sam, Jolene, and Carly. So Allie, are you able to get on or are you having a hard time? And Kaori and Jolene. Perfect. Anonymous chameleon. Great, we've got 4. Oh, we lost somebody again. Enough, Millie. Okay. All right, well, we've got 4 people on here, so we'll start off with one slide. So can I have Carly and Jolene? You guys are going to be on slide 13. And Anonymous Chameleon and Sam, you guys are going to be on slide 14. Okay. And so remember, the plan is for you to go ahead and eat as many squirrels as you can. You're a hungry, hungry hawk. Okay. So try to get as many squirrels as you can. Are you ready? Okay. That's fine, Sam. That's okay. It's up to you what you would like to do. Okay. No pressure. No pressure at all. Okay. All right. Everyone else ready? I don't see anybody on slide 14. Okay. All right. Well, for slide 13, okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So 30 seconds starts now. So try to get as many squirrels as you can for 30 seconds and click and drag. About 5 seconds. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. Let's see how many squirrels this hawk ate. So let's go ahead and take a look at our table, right? So remember, we're trying to fill these out. So how many red squirrels? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red squirrels. Good. So we've got 7 red squirrels for the first time. How many tan squirrels? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we had 12 tan. All right, so in total, what is the total number of squirrels that were eaten? You can go ahead and put this in the chat. $19. Good. Good. So now we have 19 total. So if we have 19 total, what percent was red? So that's 17 divided by 19. Who can give me that answer? What was the percent of red squirrels? A bit over third. Good. So about what? 30, how? About 36%. And 12 divided by 19 is going to be what? About 64%. Okay, so we can already start to see that there is a big difference, right? So if you're taking count in your table, right? Remember that we're trying to put this in our table. So right here in that F1, actually, we're not there yet. That's the, let's do the parent. And then we can change this to 1. So in the parent generation, we had 7 were eaten, and then 12 were tan. That gave us 19 total, and that put us at 36% and put us at 64%. Good. So now, right? Now what happened? So we had a bunch of these guys that were eaten. Now the reality of the situation was I had put in an even amount. There was an even amount between red and tan squirrels. And yet there were more tan squirrels that were eaten than there were red squirrels. So now what we have happening is we've got quite a bit of squirrels, right? We're going to do this again, but they've had a chance to reproduce. Now, of course, the reproduction rate might be a little different, right? It's not going to be a perfect double. You know, squirrels can have different amount. Millie, enough. Squirrels are going to have a different amount of reproduction, so they could have a different litter, a different number of litter. But for the sake of our simulation, we are just going to go ahead and say that they doubled their population. And this is what is left from surviving the first round, right? So remember, we talked about the survival. We talked about how the survival of the fittest, right, is going to be able to survive long enough to put their genes into the next generation. Well, these are the guys that survived long enough to be able to put their genes in the next generation. So we're going to go ahead and see what that means. We're going to see how that population has changed and what that means when we say that it's going to help them survive. Right? We'll have a chance to answer some of these questions later on. I'm just trying to get these to not be right. All right, so now we have our leftover population. Let's go ahead and move down to slide 14. We have our leftover population. So far, what do you notice? What changed between the first time and the second time? Right? What changed? What do you start to see? What are you going to anticipate is going to happen? Higher percentage of red squirrels. Yes. So remember, we said that these were the ones that were left over. These were the ones that lived and survived the hawk attack. And then that means that they were able to survive long enough to reproduce. They were able to survive long enough to be able to put their genes into the next generation. And then they were able to reproduce. And this is the new set of population. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to do that again for 30 seconds. You're going to try to get as many squirrels as you can. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to get started now. Go ahead. 30 seconds starts now. Okay, 5 seconds. All right. Okay, let's see. How did we do this time? So I know some of the ways that the squirrels are, the way that they were created is like kind of weird. Like there were different parts that they made and then put it together. So no big deal. We're going to count it as one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 red squirrels. And then how many tan squirrels do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's talk right here. Why do you think we were able to get more of the tan squirrels this time, or excuse me, more of the red squirrels than the tan squirrels? Because there was more red ones to begin with. Yeah. So even though we still got a lot of tan, I mean, look, there's only 5 left in the population when there's so many more red. But just because the sheer number got bigger of the red ones, there's going to be a higher probability that red is going to be picked over, even though tan can be seen a little bit easier, right? So just relax, Millie. She's being a princess. Okay. So now let's go ahead and fill our table out. So we've got, there were 11 red ones. There were 9 tan ones. So that's a total of 20. So what's the percentage? 11 divided by 20. I think that's going to put us at what, 55? Nice. And that's going to put this one at 45%. If my math is correct. Okay, so we're starting to see there is a little bit of a shift, but now there was a fire. So what that means is we are going to go ahead, and that fire actually took down all of this brush, all of this tan stuff, right? So let me go ahead and make my simulation of a fire. So all of these that were left over were still able to reproduce. Millie, you cannot go on the desk. That is not a place for dogs. Okay. So, where was I? Okay, so then we had this situation where they were still able to reproduce, but there was a fire. So now their fire has caused them to get rid of all of this brush. Some of the stuff that was allowing our squirrels to camouflage, it's not necessarily what happens anymore. Oh my God, I'm getting very frustrated. Why can't I? Okay. It's going slow for me too. The suspense, isn't it? Isn't it just killing you? The suspense. I know, right? Oh my goodness. Holy cow. So we're getting there. We're getting there. So the fire happened. It was able to. Oh no, Sam. It's not. This is me. This is just every time I've ever done this. And I was Gary, you're so funny. So the fire happened and it caused the environment to break down and no longer keep those, those red squirrels. Oh. Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay. All right, we made it. And now they've reproduced, right? Remember that these are the ones that made it to the next generation. So these are the ones that were, oh my God, you guys are so funny. These were the ones that were able to make it and survive long enough to put their genes into the next generation. So now what do we notice about the population? Sam. You are too. Go ahead. 30 seconds on the clock to try to get as many squirrels as you can. All right, ready, set, go. Okay, I'll extend it. I'll give you guys some extra time. All right. Take about 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Let's go ahead. Wow, you guys. So we're seeing like this really big thing occurring, right? So not only is it the fact that yes, you do. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you guys. So not only did you guys see that the population was overrun by red squirrels. So just the red squirrels alone were going to be able to be the ones that were going to be picked the majority of, but then there is a change in the environment. What change in the environment would drive you to choosing more red over the white? They taste better. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But what about the environment? What happened to the environment that then all of a sudden the red ones were getting picked mostly? The environment got lighter, right? We could see them exactly. You could see them a little better, right? So it makes it easier to get them. And there's a lot more of them. So there's a mixture of the two. So now we're going to go through it again. The last one. Let me go ahead and delete the ones that you guys have eaten. Yum, yum. Good morning. Good breakfast. And now we're going to go ahead and again duplicate it. We're going to see. There we go. And then try to spread them out so they're not overlapping as much. Okay. So let's get them one more time. So I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds or so. Are you ready? Set, go. That's cool, Kiori. I feel like Sam is purposefully targeting my light ones. There we go. Good, good, good. Okay, take about 20 seconds. Ten. Oh man, Sam. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Go ahead and finish the last few. Let the computers kind of redrag. Oh, thank you. I think someone is spreading it apart to let me see all of it. So we can start to see what do we notice that now that the environment has changed, what's happening to our population? Or Sam. Why do I keep calling you Spencer? I meant to call you Sam. What do we notice happened to the population? So we ate all of these guys. I'm not counting them. There's way too many. There's a lot. But what are we seeing to the population again, huh? What had happened? We had two populations, right? So if we go here, we had this population, right? We had more squirrels eaten. And then we doubled this, which meant that there was more red squirrels. But then the fire happened and we ate all of these guys. Now we were eating all of these guys. And we were left with this population. And what do we start to notice? It gets a little bit more equally colored. Good, Madison. Yeah. So even though just a little bit ago we saw these populations, these squirrels were next to nothing. There were only a couple and there were only a couple left. But when the environment changed, all of a sudden, the tan squirrels were the ones that were able to blend in more. And they were the ones that were favored. And they weren't the ones that were eaten. So they were be able to survive for the next generation, to reproduce, put their genes in. And then they duplicated. They had more squirrels that had their tan coloring. We're going to move into the reflection piece, but I want to ask you guys, do you guys have any questions here? You guys are so funny. Okay, good. Any questions about natural selection thus far? All right. So let's go into this reflection, right? We've got a couple of questions that we're going to connect the dots with. So if we take a look at we're going to answer this first question. So I'd like for you guys to go ahead, briefly describe how and why natural selection took place in this lab. Go ahead, give a general explanation from the beginning to the end of the activity. So I'd like for all of you guys to go ahead and practice typing your answer. Everyone should be answering this question, all 6 of you. Right? So briefly describe how and why natural selection took place in this lab. Give a general explanation from the beginning to the end of the activity. Because we naturally selected the delicious tan squirrels due to the fact we could actually see them. Good. Great. Yeah, that's a really good explanation. Waiting on 5 more. Good. Different traits in the gene pool allow different animals to survive and adapt to a changing environment more easily and reach the reproductive stage. Great, Sam. Awesome. Carly, Madison, Allie, Jolene. Let's go for one more. Let's get one more explanation in there. We can move on to the next question. Good. Great. This is awesome. Natural selection in this lab took place due to a change in the environment that caused certain squirrels to be at a better chance of reaching a stage where they can pass on their genes. Awesome. The squirrel population had 2 different colors at first. Some were red and some were tan, and one color was easier for predators to see and hunt. Good. Tell me how those squirrels are. I know I actually have squirrels that are right now that are outside my window trying to eat the bird seeds. Rude. Okay, what was the main driving factor for natural selection? So what was good. Sorry, Allie. Let me see. Natural selection took place as the environment changed and the population gene pool had different color fur, making one easier to spot. Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Good. That was actually my question to the next one as well. The environment was the driving factor, right? The change in the environment is what dictated which traits were favorable. Favorable meaning the ones that allow them to survive more. When the fire happened and it went from a tan background, or excuse me, a red background to a tan background, all of a sudden we could see the red ones better, meaning that our predator, our hawks, could actually get the red ones more easily. Good. What are some other examples of natural selection outside of our simulation? What are some other things that we know? Don't worry, Kiori, you are great. You guys are so funny. Peppered moths are completely correct as an example. Good, Madison. Yeah, so the peppered moths, if you guys haven't heard this one before, has to do with before and after the Industrial Revolution. There were these moths that had this, what color was it? They were dark, they were white. They started off as like this white kind of wings. Thank you. And they used to blend into their surroundings. They were able to kind of go against a lot of things were white. Yeah, Carrie, so you know about this. So a lot of the environment was white buildings, white ground, white, allowed them to blend in. And then after the Industrial Revolution happened, there was a lot more pollution in the atmosphere and onto the different surfaces. So now these white moths were no longer able to blend in, and actually they were the ones that were getting picked off. I did not know that, Sam. God, you distracted me. Okay. And then when the dark colored moths were the ones who were actually able to blend in, so that population actually went ahead and changed that environment, changed the population. You guys are so distracting. Okay, create your own example of natural selection. So, Sam, you're first. Create your own example of natural selection and now I need to know. Oh my God. I hope this crew comes every week. Sam, we're waiting on your example. Everyone else can join in too. I do not believe that. I hope that all of you come next week. Every teacher hopes their students show up. I know that I certainly, well, you guys are also just like hilarious. So there's that. You guys are making me laugh. Well, too much. All right, where's that example? I eat spicy Cheetos less than superior jalapeno Cheetos, therefore spicy Cheetos live on. Okay, that works, right? You have more spicy Cheetos left over. I mean, that is quite a unique example, but it holds. Yeah, Kiori, let's see your example. We have red belly frogs, which are rare, and non-red belly frogs. Good. Oh, that's cute. Short giraffe, no food. Tall giraffe, food. Tall giraffes get food so they can. Good. That I guess that's the hang up. Good. Madison, great example. Okay, so there is another exercise. I'm not going to go over that, but I am going to be posting this slide onto the announcements. And there is another exercise if you wanted to do it. So there is this way that you can count 10 of each seed or pasta pieces into 3 of the pots. Decide which pair of tweezers you're going to use first. Time yourself moving the seeds from the pots that they are in to an empty pot. Repeat this with the same tweezers for each seed type. Repeat again with larger tweezers. Record your results. So this is going to just be a really quick way for you to play again, right? Good. Oh, I love that you guys are so funny. And some fun facts. We've got three. The earliest evidence of life was I don't even know if I know how to 3,500,000,000 BC. Earth formed around 4,500,000,000 BC. And these years ago, the early Homo appeared. So Homo sapiens, the first one, 2.5 million BC. Is that crazy? Long time. And we have about 8.7 million. Natural world contains this number of species. And that's everything I have for you guys. Yes, I know that's usually the first thing that people think of when they hear the word homo, but no, I was thinking Homo sapien. Yes. All right. Well, actually, that's a good point because that homo part means the same, right? So you were I taught you guys that actually. I taught you guys about homozygous, heterozygous, Homo sapien, right? Exactly. All right. So that's what I have for you all today. Do you guys have any questions for me? Anything that you would like to get some clarification on? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day with the lab and your lessons for today. And otherwise, I'll see you guys in small group. All right. Bye. You're welcome. Bye, everyone.